Welcome back to Everybody Has Stuff. I am your host, Rachel, and today I'm going to continue our discussion on addiction, specifically harm reduction, drug court, and decriminalization. Stay tuned. So today I really wanted to pick up in regards to, I know I had mentioned it before, but harm reduction and what that means, what it looks like, and the controversy surrounding it. I do want to get into, the topics of trauma. I know I've mentioned that I plan on getting into that as well, but I think for the rest of this season, I'm just going to carry out this theme of addiction since we've kind of gone pretty far into it already. So it makes sense to me to just continue that for now. To start with, I really just kind of wanted to begin with kind of a brief overview of harm reduction. I kind of am going to just give you a verbatim off of the harmreduction.org website. So harm reduction is a set of practical strategies and ideas aimed at reducing negative consequences associated with drug use. It is also a movement for social justice built on a belief in and respect for the rights of people who use drugs. I just think that that's pretty powerful, and I am baffled as to why, I guess, that people struggle to really understand that concept of harm reduction. I get it. Again, going back to that, typical addiction template as far as recovery goes is with the 12-step programs and pushing abstinence is the only way. And that very black and white thinking, but that does not work for everybody, clearly. Because if it did work, we wouldn't have so many addicts who are still out there using and overdosing and dying, period. So what I really wanted to kind of get into today was why do we don't push this more? Why is this such a big deal to us, at least in the United States? Because there are plenty of other countries, that do engage in this type of mindset when it comes to addiction. So places like, and it's around the world. Actually, there's over 100 operating sites around the world in Europe, Canada, and Australia specifically. Well, mainly, from my research anyways, that are all about this. So why is, America struggling to adopt this different type of way? It feels like we're beating a dead horse. Excuse the term. But it's true. We're just beating our heads against a wall. What do they always say in 12 steps, right? You keep doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results, yet paradoxically, ironically, hypocritically, these same programs that are saying that are just doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results with people, and they get frustrated when, they see newcomers come in and they just go back out like a revolving door, in and out, or they just go out and die. So I really would like to kind of highlight why, for me, I did struggle with this idea because, again, I was kind of brainwashed into this belief. It had been so ingrained to me that abstinence is the only way. I mean, I did find for me, that is the only way. As I've shared before, I cannot put anything into this body that's mind or mood altering because I will go to the extreme. But I am aware that there are people who abstinence does not work for, at least in that moment when they're trying to get their lives together. It really is scary when you're trying to get clean and you have counselors and your family and people within AA and NA just kind of being very judgmental and kind of telling you, like, if you don't do it this way, like, then you're doing it wrong. It's not good enough. And plus, I know for me, like, I would have never been allowed to be home and just smoke weed. They didn't want me on anything. They didn't approve of anything. Unless it was drinking, because, alcohol is so different, even though it's not. And actually alcohol and things like tobacco and these legal substances, right, are the ones that are actually doing more damage to our bodies. Research has shown this over and over again. Again, that my dude, Gabor Mate, I can't ever pronounce his name, but he's my dude. He always talks about this. So why can't we change it? I'll tell you why. It's because we get stuck in our ways and we don't want to change because change seems scary. We're scared of the unknown. And for however long since AA and NA has been around, it's always been about abstinence. And so people are scared to try something new. 1. 2, I really think a lot of it too comes from the fact that people get jealous. They really do. I know when I was struggling to still get clean and I was in and out, that whole thing, in and out of treatment, AA, whatever, I would get jealous. I would get jealous when I would see that there were people I knew that could just smoke weed. I would get even more jealous when I knew that their drug of choice was heroin or crack or coke or meth or some other like really intense substance, illegal substance. And they got clean from that, but they still smoke weed or they just drink or whatever. I tried that multiple times, over and over and over again, all different ways, all different patterns to try to make that work for myself, because I wasn't ready to, come to grips with the fact that, like, I am someone who just cannot put anything into my body, period. It ruins my life. So that was a really hard realization for me. So I think that that's another reason why harm reduction, for a lot of us, it's a hard topic to grasp or even to try to understand it. Most people don't want to try to understand it because they know it doesn't work for them and they assume that their way is the only way. And again, it's ingrained that, like, okay, if you didn't do it this way, the mainstream way of like abstinence, then there's something inherently wrong with you. It even says in the big book that basically, obviously I don't know verbatim, but paraphrasing, that if you can't work the program, if you fail at the program or you relapse while you're attempting the program, or your life maintains unmanageability during the program, that means you're not working the program like to the best of your ability. You're not giving it 150%. And that it even states somewhere that, like, basically you're just not a type of person that can ever be fixed. Is pretty much what it says, is like, you don't have the capability of being honest to yourself and to other people. So therefore, like, you're screwed. Basically, you're not gonna change. It's, again, putting blame on, like, I don't even want to say victim, because I know that at some point we do make choices on how we cope. But when you're in an active addiction and it's deep and you're like in it, like all the way, the drugs kind of hijack your brain. Again, there's research to back that up too, scientifically. But you're it's like victim blaming. So I'm coming here for help. And here you are, even in your literature, the stuff you expect me to read and believe in and buy into, that's a lot. Because then guess what happens when people read things like that are very black and white and not really attainable, and not even logical, it's discouraging. And then that's when people are like, well, like me, who are perfectionists, well, if that's the case, then fuck it, I don't even want to try, because if I try, God forbid, if I fail it, that means I'm a bad fucking person and I can't be saved, which is already like this core belief that's within me to begin with. And this will just reiterate that. That will just validate it and prove it. So that's why, there's just a lot that I don't agree with. And we're victim blaming instead of realizing there's a different way for everyone. Maybe it didn't work because they're the way that they need to do the recovery is just different. They need different resources. Something else is going to work for them. Or maybe bits and pieces, even though they tell you, you can't pick and choose part of the program, which ones you're going to work for it to work. I don't know if I believe that. Because I think if you're utilizing things that you've learned in the program and other self-care activities, maybe therapy, whatever, you're feeling like there's a purpose in your life. If you're just stable, I don't understand why you would need to fully go in on that. So this is the reason why I wanted to bring the topic up of harm reduction. What really made me open my eyes to this, because again, I was pretty brainwashed by this idea that treatment centers and AA and just the world's concept, at least over here in the US, of recovery is abstinence-based only. And if you do anything other than that, you're a failure. So because it was so ingrained, I didn't really have the ability to open my mind up to this idea of harm reduction for other people until I worked at that drug court IOP program, which watching the clients come in and seeing my coworkers struggling to get their clients to listen to them and do the right thing and not get sanctions and going into jail. And I noticed that it made me notice that some of the clients just were refusing to do 12-step program. And yet drug court, force them or require them to go to 12-step meetings, and they would have to get meeting lists signed and bring it to drug court so that they can make sure that they're not lying about going to the meetings. And then at the IOP that I went to, I don't know if every IOP is like that, and I'm in the state of New Jersey, so this might not be the same anywhere else, but at least in the county that I was working in, this treatment center was requiring extra 12-step program meetings on top of what they were already ordered to do through drug court. Now, coming to IOP is like a full-time job, especially for the drug court clients, because they don't have transportation. So they would have to take logistic care, or we would get them bus passes, or anything like that through the state. Drug court sometimes would help provide them with transportation, but depending where they live and then how long it takes for them to sit on the damn bus, wait for the bus, it's like their whole day is surrounded about coming to this IOP. And when they start off, most IOPs are like Monday to Friday, right? And then they would drop down to 3 days and then 2 days and then one. Ours was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So it was 3 days, 2 days, one day, and then once a month was like the step down process. But either way, like I said before on previous episodes, that like when you're in IOP at like even the 3 times a week, you're there doing that for at least 3 months. Maybe less, depending on how well you do. But with the drug court clients in the facility I was working at, I think there was a certain like time frame they were expected to stay at the IOP level at the 3 times a day and the more intense level of care. So it's a full-time job, and then they work, most of them, on top of that. So trying to find time to get around through public transportation if they didn't have cars, which a lot of them didn't, and then to go to work and then come to IOP or come to morning IOP and then go to work. It was just like a shit show for them. And that was like one of the main things they would always complain about, was like that it's a full-time job on top of their other full-time job. And they would get frustrated and sad over it and discouraged, because they felt like no one was, like they were setting them up to fail. Drug court was setting them up to fail. Treatment was setting them up to fail, especially for the fact that, you know, the treatment center I was at was making things even harder by making them go to even more meetings. Like basically they were expected between the meetings with drug court and with the IOP and with the IOP to go almost every day. Now, yes, okay, in the 12 steps, they suggest 90 and 90, right? 90 meetings in 90 days to go every day. Okay, yes, but we're talking about drug court clients who are being mandated. We didn't really have a lot of clients coming in that were just coming in with Medicaid, you know, voluntarily. It's very, very rare that would happen. So I would become frustrated for them, watching them struggle. And I remember when I first started, I was still kind of on my AA kick and was like really boasting about it, because it did help me so much. It really did. There's a lot within the program. I know I kind of talk a lot of shit and gripe and complain about a lot of certain things that I think need to be changed or a different way of viewing things. But there's a lot of parts of the program that really did help me. And I don't want it to seem like I'm totally against it, because I'm not, because it does work for some people completely, and that's all they need. But when I have clients coming in who are on drug court, they don't want to hear that shit. They just don't. They don't want to hear, you know, all the slogans like let go and let God. And well, because that's a whole other thing about how, you know, they use the terminology of God, and that throws people off because they're assuming it's a religious thing, but it's not. It's very much more a spiritual thing, but just the sound of that word God, it scares people, especially people who have, you know, been beaten down and have lived such shitty experiences, have probably lost a lot of faith in a higher power, especially anyone that you would call God, because they assume it's related to, you know, the God within the Bible, which is fine. But I know for myself and a lot of people in recovery, we had bad experiences with the church, with religion, things being shoved down on us, making us feel worse, being judged. It just, you know, that's just something that happens. I don't know why. It just seems to be a commonality between all of us. So you have clients coming in who are forced to be there. You can't be forcing them to do 12 steps. See, there needs to be options. Now, there are some, you know, programs that do offer that, but not with drug court. At least, again, the one in Atlantic County that I am aware of. Maybe they've changed. So I haven't worked with that group of people in a long time. So, you know, hopefully maybe they've come a little bit further on that. But I know that it's not fair. Yes. Let me back up. The clients chose drug court. Let me just say that. For anyone who doesn't know what drug court is, let's go there. The clients who have had certain violations or charges or repeated offenses, and they've given them multiple tries, whatever. It's, or even I think on a first offense, they can even get offered drug court instead of serving time, depending on what the offense is. And probably depending on how nice the judge is, but they're given the option to serve their time or to do drug court. Now, what would you do? Because I know if it was me, I'd probably choose drug court too, because you're free, you're not in jail, and you're able to go about your day. Like, you can still go to work, school, treatment, whatever. You do have a, probation officer who does check in on you, and you do have to go to drug court every week to do urines and to stand in front of a judge. So basically they can judge you to see like how your progress is. But they choose this. So, you'll hear the argument like, well, you chose to do this. So if you don't want to deal with it, go to jail then and serve your sentence. I get that on some level, because I know that the other issue with drug court, at least, in my experience, is that there were a lot of drug dealers coming in. Now, not saying that drug dealers don't deserve treatment, because they do, because first of all, that lifestyle is an addiction on its own. That fast money, just the lifestyle period, it's an addiction. And the power that they feel, it's an addiction. And they kind of learn the ways to speak to the judge or to whoever is doing, the counselor who is doing their assessment for drug court, to talk up their addiction of drugs, even though some of them do have actual drug addictions as well. I think that some of them are in denial about it, because that's like a hard pill to swallow, literally. But they don't all have that. Some of them really just are drug dealers and hustlers. So like, they know what to say to get what they want, which is to not go to jail so that they can go to treatment instead and avoid their sentence. However, when they get to treatment, I don't think that they realize, because the majority of them have not been to treatment before, so they have no idea what to expect. They have no idea they have to come 3 times a week for 3 months, then 2. Then basically the time frame of drug court is at least a year. At least. Now, that's if there's no positive drug screens where it puts you back a level of care, because there's different steps and stages of like drug court itself. And that progress and treatment dictates like how far you progress in drug court too. It's just, it's a lot. Probably way too much to even get into in this one podcast. This episode anyways. But basically, going back to harm reduction, they're mandated, and they're drug users who are mandated, who probably aren't really ready to stop. They just got caught. Let's get real. And 2, you have drug dealers in there, which that whole mix is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of, but okay. And you are shoving 12 steps down their throat and forcing them to do this one way. Why? An example I could give of a positive experience regarding a situation with decriminalizing substances is Portugal. In 2001, Portugal decided they wanted to decriminalize everything. Now, again, that's very different than legalizing it. Just to put that out there, they're not like legalizing heroin or something like that, but decriminalizing it, where people who get caught with certain substances and how much they have on them, and whether it was like intent to sell or whatever. I don't know how they specifically do it in Portugal, but they're not putting as many people in jail now. Since 2001, they tried this program to change that, and it has had a lot of success. So, most of the time you're getting a fine, maybe get your stuff confiscated, and community service. Granted, there are certain charges that would still kind of be expected to have to go to jail. There are still certain charges that you wouldn't really be able to get out of going to jail no matter what. I'm sure even if there was drugs involved, it could be something else with, firearms or something. I don't know. Again, I don't know their complete legal system, but I do know that they started to look at drug addiction as a health problem rather than a criminal justice problem. And because of that, they have helped their citizens so much. When they first started this in 2001, their prison population of drug users was up to 40%, like people who are in there for drug charges. And since then, they're down to about 15.7%. That's a lot. That's like freaking huge. And I think that's commendable. So for people in the US who think that this is not doable or that it's not like a positive thing, you're wrong. Look at their research. Granted, I'm sure there are some negatives and downsides, and it's not always going to be such low percentages. Things I'm sure fluctuate depending on whatever. But like overall, though, they've seen such positive results. Again, you can Google this. It's like a valid thing. I'm not making it up. I'm sure a lot of you have actually probably heard about it or maybe learned about it in school too, if you're like going to school for psychology or social work or something like that. But and then on top of it, like there's lower HIV. There's lower cases of HIV transmission and Hep C and things like that also. Not to mention that they are providing people with resources. They're providing them with skills, education, jobs. They're giving them purpose again. This is why this has worked for Portugal, because I can't say it enough. I would have never stopped doing what I was doing to myself if I had not truly found my purpose and believed that it was my purpose and believed in myself. That self-love and self-confidence, man, I'm telling you, it makes all the difference. There's just, look, I get goosebumps even talking about it, but like, I'm passionate about it because it took me so long to figure out how to get better. And now that I just have to like share it with you guys. It's obviously not that simple. Everyone's journey is different. I'm not saying that. I'm not trying to make it sound like it's some easy process. It's not, clearly. But I'm just saying for me, that's like that is what I needed to be able to move forward with my life and to get better. And to have positive relationships around me. And to just start off with these little tiny accomplishments that I was like, dude, I did that. I got this. That way, when another thing comes up, I'm like, I can do this because I did that and I made it through. It's like these little steps you take to get there to do the bigger things, the little self-confidence that you builds into bigger ways of finding yourself and loving yourself and building that self-efficacy. And that's kind of what Portugal has done with those who are suffering from addiction. To kind of go along with this and the criminal justice system regarding addiction, that's a whole other topic that just blows my mind. Because if you look back, when has punishment and fear ever worked for anyone? Please tell me. I'll wait. Yeah, exactly. Doesn't work for kids. doesn't work for adults, and it sure as hell does not work for people who struggle with addiction. So why are we punishing them and putting them in jail? Now, I'm not saying someone who's like high on fucking meth that goes and murders, the neighborhood should be running around free. Obviously there's certain cases that don't apply here, but overall, we're overcrowded in the prison system, and we're not really doing what jail and prison is supposed to be doing. The purpose we even created such a system was for rehabilitation. No one's getting rehabilitation. Granted, I don't know the ins and outs of every jail or prison in the United States. I'm sure there's some prisons somewhere in some states where they are giving this good care, to the inmates. Though, just from what I know on the East Coast, like up, like in the Northeast, New England area, and also like the tri-state area, like New York, PA, Jersey, we're not doing that. So, why? Why? Why are we repeating things that just don't work? You're wasting people's money, right? Everyone always wants to bitch about taxpayer money. But nobody wants to do anything about it. Nobody wants to come up with plans to make this better. Granted, too, if we did change it, these prison companies, these companies that are in on it with, the prisons and whatever are going to lose money, but not really, because if we start to construct a better, system and way to deal with this, you could still make money off that, bro. I mean, I want to say, why does everything have to stem from money? Who fucking cares? Don't you want people to get better? I know that if addiction doesn't touch you, you might not care, or you think you don't care. But you should, because the amount of money that's spent on medical care for those who struggle with addiction, with treatment and medications and whatever else, it's just I don't get it. I don't get it. That's why this is a really sensitive topic, because it did take me a long time to view the systems that we have in place as wrong. But it wasn't until I really accepted the fact that just because I'm an addict or was an addict, reminds me of that guy. I was an addict, now I'm not. That's not real. But I guess you become so, again, brainwashed by the popular beliefs of this country, and it impacts people's ability to think for themselves and to kind of take a look at themselves too, because a lot of it's from biases about what people think drug addicts are, right? The homeless person on the street shooting up heroin, or the drunk under the fucking bridge with a brown paper bag and a bottle of booze. And yeah, sometimes that is what it looks like, but that's not all it entails. Again, it's fear of unknown, and people just don't want to face the reality, because if they did, then they'd have to look at the fact that they're an asshole, that they're not a very nice person for, judging someone who's struggling with something that they can't really control, because it all stems from trauma. We can't control trauma. That's a whole other topic discussion. The last thing I wanted to touch upon is what they would refer to as a supervised injection site. Now, I know, cringe. Everyone's gonna be like, "What? Supervised injection site?" Yeah. You heard me. So we already have clean needle exchanges, correct? So why wouldn't we just do these supervised injection sites? And when people hear this, they assume like it's just a bunch of, like it's basically a bunch of doctors just co-signing these addicts shit. Like, yeah, you can get high. We're here if you die. We got you. Like, no, that's not what it is about. The goal is to hopefully get them to a point where they want recovery and to help get them into treatment and provide them other health resources as well. We don't want to see people continue to struggle, but we also don't want to continue to see people overdosing and dying if they don't have to. And a lot of people, again, are going to say, well, it's their choice. It's a choice. You put that in your body, then you deserve to die. Yes, people have said that to me and to other people I know. Like, if I'm going to put that poison into my body, I'm making that choice to treat myself like that and put it into my vein. Then if I die, it's my own fault. Like, what? That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. It blows my mind how insensitive and ignorant and judgmental people are. But that is why people don't grasp the concept of these injection sites. First of all, they don't let themselves be open enough to hear and to truly like educate themselves on why we want to create these. And it's not like they're not around. It's only in the US that we like refuse to do this. It's like in Canada, there's a place called, I wrote it down, Insight. Check it out. Google it. And they opened in 2003, right? I did a little research because, I'm a psych major. That's why. And they've supervised since 2003 more than 3.6 million. 3.6 million, okay? And responded to more than 6,000 overdoses. Responded to 6,000 overdoses. But guess what? No deaths. No one has died. The rate for, like, again, it has also decreased the spread of HIV and Hep C and other illnesses that you might be able to get through sharing needles, right? There's less outdoor use, so you're not seeing as many people out on the streets shooting up now, probably as you would before. And it reduced the amount of overdoses. Yes, they said that they responded to more than 6,000 overdoses, but 6,000 overdoses compared to the 3.6 million people that they've supervised, 6,000 is really not that fucking bad, considering. And also, more importantly, like, I'm sure everybody thought it was going to be that it would create them to, like, be more high and to go out and commit more crimes. No, it didn't. It did not increase crime. Do the research. Yes, I'm sure there are downsides. There are certain aspects of it that might need to be improved, I'm sure. But there's no reason why we cannot be putting these sites in the US. The only reason is because then, again, money. People lose out on money. Hospitals lose out because they don't have many people coming in for overdoses. The medications that they would be prescribed, like Suboxone or methadone, like probably aren't really being used unless they go to treatment or something like that. So it's like the pharmaceutical companies and the hospitals. It's just, there's all these other systemic things that are in the way here in the US because we're money hungry and selfish and entitled and only care about something if it's involving ourselves or going to help. Like, we only do things when it's going to benefit us. So hence why there's still so many Americans that are completely against this. Because one, They don't know about addiction. They're not educated properly on addiction being part brain disease and part of epigenetics and not a choice. So that gets in the way. Also, it's very individualistic, as I've said before, here in the US. Collective, not just addicts, not just junkies, but it would help, take away, it would help decrease the use of taxpayer money for other things that we're using for those who are struggling with addiction. It's to me like common sense. What are you so afraid of? I guess if people started getting better, they wouldn't have people to talk shit about to deflect from looking at themselves. I don't know. But I just really wanted to bring this up because I think it's important to note that while abstinence is important for some people to follow, it isn't for everyone. And that's okay. And we need to really let go of our judgments and be more, client-centered and meet them where they're at, again, and not just shove our beliefs down their throat, including 12-step programs. This goes along with Suboxone and methadone, too. I've talked about this. My wife, she talked about it as well, but it can be used the right way. Not everyone's able to. I wasn't. But those who have, it has given them their lives back. And there's no judgment there. There's no like, oh, you're not really clean because you're on subs or you're on methadone. Bro, please stop. They're on that, but like they're so much healthier than you are that you can't even recognize how much it's helped them to get their life back together. And you're still struggling, miserable. Because you keep holding on to this idea of abstinence is the only way. I don't know. Anyways, I didn't want to go too far or too long. But next topic, I'm thinking we'll be talking about cross addiction. So stay tuned for that one. And I just want to mention again that I am not in any way, shape, or form a licensed therapist. Not yet. Very soon, hopefully. And until then, though, nothing I'm saying is meant to be taken as advice or like taken for therapy. This is just my personal beliefs, my opinions, my experiences, and my insights. And just want to spread some hope and love and support. Please check out my website, www.whatsyourstuff.com. And I'm on IG and FB, Everybody Has Stuff. And on TikTok, Everybody Has Stuff. Twitter, What's Your Stuff? So please check those sites out. I would love to have you subscribe to my podcast. And yeah, much love for you guys. And I'll see you next time.